Hey guys, it's Kyle Thompson here with eXp Realty, bringing you the monthly market update for February. And today we're going to be covering apartments. Let's jump right into it. All right, so big picture. We had 50 new listings, 15 new sales. The average list price was $394,673. The average sale price was $383,353. The average sale price to listing ratio was 96.96%. Average days on market was 44.73, and we ended the month with an inventory of 111. So if we look at the market conditions, I like to use both the monthly supply of inventory method and the sales to new listing ratio. The nice thing with the monthly supply of inventory method is that it is less volatile, but it is also slower as it's more like a moving average, so it doesn't always capture the current trends, whereas the sales to new listing ratio is more of a real-time measure, but it's also more prone to volatility and false readings, which is somewhat what happened this month, which you'll see in just a moment. So, according to the two methods, the monthly supply of inventory, we came in at 4.43, which puts us right into neutral market territory, whereas the sales to new listing ratio, we came in at 30%, which puts us firmly into buyer's market territory. Speaking of inventory, let's jump over and take a look at the active inventory for last month. So, last month, sales remained relatively flat with the prior 2 months, whereas we had a huge spike in new inventory. This big spike is the reason that the sales to new listing ratio was throwing off a false buyer's market signal, when in reality, I think it's much more closer to a neutral market. We also had the second highest expireds to sales ratio, with only December last month being higher. That is typical for this time of the year. And finally, we did have a slight bump in the benchmark price, rising $3,100 from $375,000 to $378,100. To keep these numbers in perspective, let's take a look at the 10-year averages, starting off with the active inventory. We ended the month with an inventory of 111, which is about 10% below the 10-year average of 124. If we look at the new listings year to date, we see that so far this year we've had 50 new listings, which is about 2% above the 10-year average of 49. Now jumping over to take a look at the sales. So far year to date we've had 15 sales, which is about 29% below the 10-year average. So not off to the best start, but it is only January, so we'll keep an eye on this as the year progresses. Now moving on to the sales, starting off with average sale price. These figures are measuring year-over-year changes, and overall, the apartments have held up resoundingly well, only being down about 1.17%, falling from $401,330 to $396,652. Most areas were relatively flat, with the exception of North Kamloops, which was up about 10%, and South Kam and Sun Rivers being down around 5 to 5.5%. As you can see, the big changes are usually the big fluctuations in price are usually due to low sales volume, which is why I started adding sales to these tables. Now, jumping over to take a look at the sales to list price ratio. So what this measures is it's just on average how much below the list price that properties are selling. In other words, if you're on the buying side, how much negotiating room there is. And last month, we came in at 96.96%, which is about the middle of the road over the last 12 months. It has been trending up for the last couple of months, meaning that there is a little bit less negotiating room when you're looking to buy apartments. Now, jumping on to the sales by sub-area. Once again, we see that apartments have held up remarkably well, with there only being a 1-unit difference when measured year over year. The areas that have been the busiest by far have been South Kamloops and Sahalee, which have made up almost 50% of total sales. Now moving on to days on market, starting with the 10-year average. So far, year to date, it's taken an average of 45 days for apartments to sell, which is about 31% below the 10-year average of 65. If we look at it by the trailing 12 months instead, we see that once again, it's taken an average of 45 days for properties to sell, but we're about 26% below the 12-month average of 61. Finally, if we take a look at the data by sub-area, when measured year over year, we see that there's about a 47% increase in the amount of time that it's taking for properties to sell, rising from 44 days up to 65. However, most areas of town are selling around that 2-month span, kind of fluctuating anywhere between 52 to 67 days. The areas of town that are selling the fastest are Tobiano, Sun Rivers, and Brock, all with an average days on market of 50 or less. The areas taking the longest to sell are Sun Peaks, Sahali, and Westside, ranging anywhere between 73 and 134 days. That wraps up this week's market update. As always, I hope that you're getting some value out of these videos. If you are, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Next up, we will be covering townhomes. Thanks for watching.